Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, July 13th, 2021. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. A number of anxious parents turned up with their children at the various examination centers this morning for the National Standardized Test or the National Diagnostic Test, which is administered to grade 2 and grade 4 students across the country. Some of the parents of students of the Kingston Prep School who were at the Girls Guide Hut told our news team that the announcement for the face-to-face exam was unexpected and that their children were not properly prepared for the assessment.
I am actually quite surprised that at this time they're still requiring us to bring them for exams. In light of all the little hiccups that have transpired, I think last week when the online assessment would have started, quite a lot of the classes were halted again, wherein the children were not engaged at all.
To be honest, I'm probably just as equally nervous as she is about the exams. I have to say, our teachers did try with what they have, but to be honest, it has been a very, very trying school year. And a lot of the work that should have been covered, we obviously didn't have enough time to cover them, and you're worried about what might now be placed on this government-issued examination because there was also limited time to prepare for this.
They just messaged and informed us that the children would be here today and they would be doing a maths and a language exam. But I know my daughter will do her best because she said she's going to make me proud and happy by doing her best. So I don't know what it entails, but I trust that she will put her best foot forward.
One parent who is also a teacher said that it has been overwhelming at times as she had to teach and supervise her son with his online classes.
I had to be at work helping my 5th formers and my 4th formers as well, during which time he would have been at home, not very heavily supervised, going into his classes. It was a little rough at the start for our class with adjusting to new teachers and getting the timetable and everything on track, so it was a bit hard for my son initially. Last term wasn't any better either. It wasn't a smooth term. They didn't have much contact time with the teachers, so it was more via WhatsApp. My biggest worry with this exam today is that I fear that my child is at a disadvantage in regards to how much he has covered. There might be some things, and I'm very sure there are some things on that test that he has not done for the grade 2 curriculum, and in that case, how can he answer? It's a big worry of mine. I tried my best and it was a lot of things that he had to learn.
For some of the working parents, it has been taxing, but they say they continue to do their best for their children.
At least about 2 weeks ago, I believe, we were told that there would be the assessment coming up. But this was all while we had this ongoing schoolwork. The communication was basically over WhatsApp over the entire 2 terms so far. So if you were not vigilant with that, then you would have missed messages. We also depended a lot on other parents to communicate things to us, which was really helpful, to be honest, because you have a lot of parents that most of us are at work all day, your children are at home, and you're struggling with keeping up with your day-to-day life and their school life.
Even before, I used to be like homeschooling them and stuff, you know, even if the teachers send in work, I will go over them with them and stuff like that, so they won't be left behind.
So you had this situation now where just yesterday the teacher would have sent, okay, well, this exam is based on all 3 terms, work covered for all 3 terms, and we were just starting to get the kids back into school mindset.
President of the SVG Teachers Union, Oswald Robinson, said it is unfair that the students have to take the exam at this time, as some students would be at a disadvantage.
One of the major concerns is that it's a standardized test. These tests are standardized. So how could you do a standardized test when all schools are not on the same level? All schools are not teaching online at the same rate, at the same pace. Their students have different socioeconomic background. All the students in all the schools are not at the same level. So that is something that the authorities have to look at. They call it diagnostic test, but it's more than that because they're going to use it for promotional purposes. They have to promote the students. Why would you have such a test? My understanding of a diagnostic test is to see where you are, your strengths and your weaknesses, and then you plan to cater for the strengths and the weaknesses.
Robinson said while teachers have also expressed their concern about the assessment, they are following the directives of the Ministry of Education.
Express the concern about going back face to face because the whole issue of using some shelters which in their mind they are not comfortable with, you know. So that is an issue. But it's part of their responsibility, it's part of their job. The employer would have called them to function. So they are cooperating with the Ministry of Education to have the exam being done.
Senior Education Officer for Exams and Assessment, Bernadette Graves, said the National Diagnostic Test seeks to diagnose students' strengths and weaknesses in relation to the school's curriculum and learning standards in language arts and mathematics. She said the ultimate aim is to help students to improve on their learning through special interventions and remediation programs.
This year, we have decided on a national assessment for grades 2 to 5. Usually, this assessment is done in grade 2 and 4, only in grade 2 and 4. So why did we do this? Why did we take this stance? It's because students' learning was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and, as we all know, the eruption of our Lasso volcano. So the Ministry of Education needs some sort of indication on how students are performing in relation to the curriculum and to the standards, the learning standards.
Grace further noted that the administration of this year's exam or assessment is being done under strict COVID-19 protocols.
At the schools, they are to observe social distancing. Students are encouraged to wear their masks, to wash or sanitize their hands.
In other news, SVG has seen a decrease in the number of dengue fever for the year thus far, with only 16 on record. Last year, over 1,000 cases of dengue fever were recorded. On NBC Radio Face-to-Face program this morning, Environmental Health Officer Ralph Williams said persons should, however, not let their guard down, especially during the rainy season when there is an increase in the breeding of mosquitoes. Williams highlighted ways in which persons can ensure that their environment is clean to prevent the breeding of mosquitoes.
Check of the yard, if possible, twice per week, so they could observe the situation that is going on. For instance, they may go around the yard and they discover that the septic tank have a defect, it have a crack, or the pipe become wear and tear, become brittle, and it develop cracks and so forth. That is the things that you look for when you go around the yard. So you inspect your yard, you look at the situation. If there's a defective septic tank, that the vent pipe have been dislodged, there's a hole in the 4-inch pipe, you seek to repair that. You use some cement, weak cement and sand, and you repair the cracks. Because over time, there will be cracks in the septic tank. If you're indoor in a building and you know that there's water plants with flowers, some places have flower plants, water pots with flower. You need to inspect those and look at them and change them at least twice per week.
Williams described the terms environment management and personal protection, which he said are very important in reducing dengue fever. He advised persons to wear appropriate garments and use insect repellents for their personal protection against dengue fever.
And the mosquito characteristics, okay, is that the Aedes aegypti usually feed lower down, your lower limbs, like your limbs and so forth, than opposed to the Culex mosquito. collect mosquitoes. So that's your clothing, how you attire, how you put on your clothes that you wear and so forth, your screening, and then people talk about repellent, using repellent. Use repellent to make sure that when they take the repellent, you put in repellent. If you have the net, the sleeping net,
nets, okay.
mosquito net, mind you that if you're going to take any nap during the day, you have to make sure that it's not only night, because remember that mosquito is not active in the night.
Right.
So you have to use your net at all times.
The environmental health officer further explained how the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes which spread dengue fever operate, noting that these mosquitoes are highly active in the morning and evening.
Especially in rooms, that's why people get bite in rooms that is lit
up
and dark and so forth. They'll be bitten still, and when there's an overcast situation, you'll find them biting too. But the peak is morning and evening. So we suggest to the persons, at dusk, you may want to close in your window, and then you will open it in the night, because although there's Culex, there's a Culex mosquito that is a nocturnal, it only bites in the night. Okay, but the thing is, it's one of the lesser evil, because the persons who say mosquito is mosquito, they're being bitten, they don't concern.
Right.
But it's less of to evil, because we don't have any disease or pathogen that presently know that the mosquito, the Culex mosquito, is implicated.
And Chief Environmental Health Officer Neri James said that persons can be fined under the Public Health Act and other regulations if they fail to do what is suggested to eradicate mosquitoes, noting that the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment is doing its best to promote health and wellness island-wide and to educate persons on how they can eradicate the mosquitoes around them.
Yes, there is an act, which is the Public Health Act.
Okay.
We are not using it. We are talking to persons and educating them. We are not using the act now. Definitely so. We have acts and also regulations, but Johnny P, the slant now is health promotion and to show the populace ways and means that they could actually stop the bite.
James said that complaints about persons littering and having mosquito breeding sites are being reported to his office on a daily basis, which they usually respond to in a day or two. He also noted that persons who will be going back to the red and yellow zones for resettlement will be at high risk in getting dengue fever, and they need to take the necessary precautions.
And we also have persons that are going back home to the orange zone and also to the red zone. This means that more and more persons will be storing up water. Okay, and as a result, we have to do more work. The gap that we have is to actually go into the red zone. Okay, so we have personnel there. So we are not allowed to be there. So we do have a gap there.
James said that the Public Health Department is doing all it can to reduce mosquito breeding sites, especially with fogging on a daily basis.
Okay, definitely so. We do that as a last resort. Okay, and we also do it whenever there is an outbreak. So you see, as in now, we are still in an outbreak mode. So you fog every day. The aim is to actually get down the adult population down low, but the goal is source reduction. So fogging is a last resort, or if we are in an outbreak mode.
As Haiti continues to struggle with a number of challenges, security being one of them, SVG has asked the United Nations Security Council to allow CARICOM to lead in crafting a better way forward for the country. That's according to Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who on radio yesterday said that the question of Haiti was brought up in a private meeting which was attended by permanent and non-permanent members of the UN Security Council.
In the statement, Her Excellency Rhonda King said, our Caribbean community remains willing to play a lead role in facilitating a process of national dialogue and negotiation to help the Haitian people and their institutions to craft an indigenous long-term solution to this crisis and ongoing challenges. And the St. Vincent and the Grenadines, of course, she ended her speech by giving this assurance that St. Vincent and Grenadines and the entire Caribbean community hope for unity and calm even at this time of national peril, and we will continue to stand with our Haitian brothers and sisters as they remain in our thoughts and prayers.
PM Gonsalves said it was unfortunate that other CARICOM countries was not permitted to join the private meeting due to the rules of the UN Security Council. However, he said that SVG, being a non-permanent member, was able to make the pitch on behalf of CARICOM.
Said, unfortunately, the Dominican Republic and CARICOM, as CARICOM, didn't get an opportunity to make statements there because under the rules of the Security Council, when there is a private meeting, the Security Council can decide to admit other countries which are affected countries could be allowed to participate, to make a statement. But that didn't happen on this occasion. As a private meeting, and there are several reasons proffered. It's unfortunate that there, but naturally, because we are in CARICOM, we spoke, and what we spoke would have been reflective of CARICOM.
In reference to the Wales University scholarships for Vincentian students to pursue study in the UK, PM Gonsalves said there was a setback. However, the relevant bodies are putting all the necessary arrangements in place for it to take place. The scholarships, which were announced last month, will see 55 Vincentians being offered the opportunity to pursue a bachelor or a master's degree at Wales University in the UK free of cost.
The Cabinet Secretary, who is integrally involved with the Ministry of Education and also the Chief Personnel Office, I saw a communication. She, on my instructions, she had written also so to resolve some issues of a technical nature, of a detailed nature. But she was on leave for 4 days. And she's back today.
The Prime Minister said persons can listen out for more information on the scholarships being offered later this week, as the matter is being treated as a priority.
I told the public servants, and after I've written the Vice Chancellor back, that we must proceed with urgency in this particular matter. We don't have a lot of time.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'm hoping that this week we'll be able to put out more information after you have a Zoom meeting with the public servants here now.
Right. Yes.
With the people in the administration at the University of Wales, Trinity St. David.
The Criminal Justice Reform Project, funded by the governments of the United States of America and the United Kingdom, on Thursday, July 8, handed over 30 e-learning programs on human trafficking to the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit of the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force. The e-learning modules to combat human trafficking were developed as training aids for frontline responders who may encounter trafficked individuals as part of their daily duties. The e-learning program will be distributed to Immigration, Customs, and officers in the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit. The e-learning modules covered awareness, issues around human trafficking, insight into what human trafficking entails, general indicators for human trafficking, and resources available to support professionals and victims. This initiative was developed and funded by UK Immigration Enforcement International in Jamaica. The e-learning is being distributed throughout the Caribbean and was first created to assist the Jamaican Constabulary Force and Jamaican Office of National Repertoire for the Trafficking in Person. The Criminal Justice Advisor to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Shara Abraham, presented the e-learning modules to Commissioner of Police Colin John and the head of the Anti-Human Trafficking Unit, Assistant Superintendent of Police Junior Simmons, during a brief handing over ceremony at the police headquarters. CJ Abraham praised the hard work and dedication of the unit and said the e-learning will assist with building the capacity of frontline responders and improve the responses to trafficking in SVG, which is even more important during crises such as COVID-19 and the Lasso Freya volcano eruption. She said the authorities must be sufficiently prepared to help identify the profiles of traffickers, implement actions, and strengthen relations with communities to help prevent trafficking and protect victims. SVG is said to be doing a commendable job in its pursuit to eliminate incidents of human trafficking. Recently, the United States Trafficking in Persons report placed SVG on the Tier 2 list for 5 consecutive years. Meanwhile, Assistant Superintendent of Police and head of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit, Junior Simmons, said they are pleased that SVG was able to maintain its Tier 2 ranking and are working hard for a further improvement in the rankings. ASP Simmons noted that in the year 2000, the United States enacted the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, under which countries must meet several standards to be ranked on one of the 4 tiers.
In this act, there are several minimum standards that countries have to meet in order to be placed on the several tiers. There are 4 tiers. You have Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 2 watch list, and the Tier 3. The highest ranking is the Tier 1, and the second highest ranking is Tier 2. That's where we are. Now, I must say that countries on the Tier 1 ranking, it doesn't mean that that country has no human trafficking problem. It's far from that. What makes a country get to Tier 1, according to the United States Trafficking Act, is what they're doing to implement the minimum standards that are found in this piece of legislation. So for example, they place a lot of emphasis on prosecution of human traffickers.
ASP Simmons said it is not an easy feat maintaining a 5-year run at the second best ranking that SVG has managed to do.
It takes a lot of effort for a country to remain on the Tier 2 list for 5 years. And indeed, Simmons and the Grenadines has been making tremendous strides in combating human trafficking. We have been playing our role in the world stage. We are a very small country, but we've been playing our role in ensuring that human trafficking doesn't take root in our country. We're ensuring that victims, they are being taken care of, and human traffickers, they are being pursued and prosecuted once the evidence is available.
SVG is said to have made numerous strides to ensure persons caught engaging in human trafficking are prosecuted. ASP Simmons shared some of their success stories, which include the 2011 Prevention of Trafficking in Persons Act.
Now, we have several approaches to combating human trafficking in Simmons and the Grenadines. There is the legislative approach, where the Parliament enacted the Prevention of Trafficking in Persons Act, And that act was passed in 2011. And this act criminalized human trafficking. So anybody who was found guilty or convicted of human trafficking under this act, then they can be sentenced to 15 years in prison, or they can be fined $250,000, or both. So you can be fined and confined.
ASP Simmons said that the goal of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit is to ultimately achieve Tier 1 status in a few years. He said while this ranking is heavily dependent upon the prosecution of human traffickers, they remain undaunted. Simmons noted that the success of cases relies heavily on evidence and made an appeal to the general public to report any incident of suspected human trafficking.
It means, therefore, that we have to redouble our efforts. We have to ensure that we ferret out the human traffickers or would-be human traffickers, and we charge them and take them before the court and prosecute them based on the evidence. And in all of this, we need the full support of the public, because crime doesn't really occur in a vacuum. Crime is an opportunistic event, and in most, if not all cases, someone sees or knows that a crime took place. So I'm urging persons out there, if you know of anyone who is possibly a victim of human trafficking, to contact the Anti-Trafficking Persons Unit. You can call us at 4561750 or 4571211. You can also email us at svgantitraffickingunit@gmail.com, or you can also visit us on Facebook.
In more police-related news now, we had an operation conducted on July 5th and 6th, 2021, have uncovered 2 firearms and a quantity of ammunition. A news release from the Police Public Relations Department said, as part of an ongoing homicide investigation, a party of Rapid Response Unit personnel conducted a search in Glen on July the 5th and recovered a Glock 27 pistol, a Glock 23 pistol, 5 magazines, and 73 rounds of .40 ammunition. A further search was conducted on July 6, which resulted in 1 magazine containing 14 rounds of .40 ammunition being recovered. The police say investigations into the discovery are continuing. Meanwhile, 2 young men have been arrested and charged separately with possession of imitation firearms. The accused are Jabari Lynch, a 22-year-old laborer of Layu, and 17-year-old Michael Lyscott of the same address. Both incidents occurred at Layu on July 7th. Lynch and Lyscott are expected to appear before the magistrate court. In another police matter, Corinne Ballantyne of Mount Grinon and Georgetown was charged with 6 counts of traffic violations. Ballantyne was charged for 1 being the driver of motor vehicle PD 962 did play a musical instrument in the said vehicle in a public place without the written consent of the Commission of Police. 2 did stop the said vehicle on the road so as to cause an inconvenience to the public in exercise of common rights. 3 did fail to remove the said vehicle when requested to do so by a police officer in uniform when it was placed in such a position so as to cause obstruction to the free flow of traffic. 4 did willfully allow the said vehicle to stand on such a road so as to cause unnecessary obstruction to the free flow of traffic. 5 did use the said vehicle without there being a policy of insurance in respect to third-party risk in respect of the user's said vehicle, and did drive the said vehicle without being the holder of a driving permit. The Police Public Relations Department said Ballantyne has been served with a summons to appear in court on Wednesday, July 14. That's tomorrow at 9 a.m.